Bogues, I'll give you an out of sport little deal here that freaks me out a little bit. So there's a baseball
Salad? Is it a salad?
What?
Is it a salad?
Nah, come on, Bogues, stop fucking around. I saw that post that you did.
Welcome to Rogue Bows, another episode of the basketball podcast. Trendy week in the NBA, a lot going on. Obviously, trade rumors heating up. Some teams struggling, some teams not. It's that final stretch before All-Star, so teams trying to make a final push to solidify where they're going to sit, but still pretty wide open below the 1-2 seeds in both conferences. Pro, what's going on?
Not much, Bogues. Holidays are over. Kids going back to school in a couple of days, so all good. All good. A lot of drama going on in the NBA. Hopefully, we'll talk about most of it today.
This is when it heats up, the days of our lives. It's the middle of the season in the NBA. Wins and losses aren't as important as all the clickbait stuff and trade rumors, and some of it's legit. So that's usually what gets talking when these games are pretty routine at the moment. But we'll get into that in a second. Let's go with our team of the weeks, Pro. I'm interested to see who you have this week as your good team.
Got to go with the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? I mean, I was gonna pick Indiana. Actually, they've been playing really well. They won 2 in a row, but man, Oklahoma City 15 in a row. Like how could you mess that one up, right? I mean, they're playing great, and that's without Chet Holmgren. I mean, it's crazy that they've gone on this huge run. I know we talked about them last week, but man, they dumped the Celtics today. The Celtics, at home, I guess in Oklahoma City, they just
26 in the second half. They kept them to something crazy in the second half. I don't know what the number was. I need to just check it, but they kept them to it was a wild number, I think, in the second half.
Yeah, so they had 15 in the third quarter and 12 in the fourth.
Yeah, 27 in the second half, Pro, which you don't see a lot of these days, especially from the Celtics with the pace they play at and how many threes they shoot. But they were my team last week, and they're legit. And Hartlestein's been the acquisition of the offseason, I think. He's been so good for them. I think his numbers when he's played, I think they're 19-1 when he's starting.
Yeah,
So,
he's 12 and he's averaging 12 and 12. I mean, the guy's killing it. Sam Presti's always been a fan of size. They do play small and they did jungle lineups a lot, but they love size. And I think in today's NBA, yeah, you need a lot of these guards and smaller players and players that can beat you off the dribble, but you do need that size, especially when you're matching up against size. But having a big that could set screens, rebound, doesn't really need any plays called for him. He's one of the best floater shooters in the league as far as from the big position on that short roll. They've been great. Obviously, SGA, a lot of MVP talk. Jalen Williams plays well for them. And plays a million different roles, defends, could make shots, straight line drive you, and then a great bench. Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Caruso. Aaron Wiggins is a great player to watch too. As far as somebody coming off the bench, they just got the other Jalen Williams back. He's been playing. So, yeah, I mean, Diagonal and company has those guys playing well, and man, they're killing people. And it's going to be an interesting rest of the season how they shape up and go into the playoffs. But 15 in a row, you can't. To me, Cleveland's playing great. Like I said, Indiana. I thought Indiana's been playing well, beating some teams. Even the Lakers are playing well, but. Definitely, in my opinion, give them to Oklahoma City. What do you think about them, folks?
yeah, I mean, they were my team last week, if I remember correctly. But it is an asterisk on the 15, Pro, because they did lose the game against the Bucks in the NBA Cup, which is not counted because it's the 83rd game of the season, right? So there is a bit of an asterisk in there. But yeah, last year I spoke about them being first but not being sold. I thought when they get in the playoffs and the trenches, they're still a little bit inexperienced. They'll probably struggle to get through to a final. I think they got a chance this year. I think the roster's 1 year older. They've played together 1 year more. I think the currency of playing together in the league is so undervalued these days. There's so much turnover and change of like, oh, this is not working. Let's make a trade. Let's try to do this. Let's draft this. They've stuck together with their core, and albeit they've drafted very, very well. As you said, Presti does a fantastic job of that. But just that acquisition of out of left field, like no rumors of Hartlestein being linked to them, and then all of a sudden, bang, they sign him. Great. Then you got Chet, you got a 1-2 punch at that 5 spot that bring different things to games. You've got a guy that can guard Jokic if you do face him in the playoffs. So I think they've got a genuine chance of being a conference finalist legitimately, not just a A lot of times we see some of these 1 seeds just go on crazy runs in the regular season and then fizzle out. I think this is a team that has a legit chance to make some noise in the playoffs this season as a 1 seed.
Yeah, for sure. And how they're built, like, they've got all these players that have trade value. They've got an MVP candidate. They got, tons of draft capital that they could throw in trades. If they don't want to pay somebody, a big contract that's coming up off their rookie deal, they could trade him along with some draft picks, pick up even a better player. I mean, they've got so many assets and so many things that they can do. They got this, one of the best bright young minds in the coaching game with Diagono, and they just have a great team. They've got great chemistry. They seem like they're together. They've been through some ups and downs. Last year's playoffs wasn't great, losing to Dallas, but I think they've obviously the experience of losing and coming together is a great deal. And like I said, a lot of high value characters in that team, character people, and a lot of talent, and obviously Presti just setting them up. And I mean, they can go so many different ways with their roster. They could keep it together. They can sell off pieces here and there with draft capital to acquire better players. I mean, disgruntled free agents, as we know, there's going to be a lot of them, disgruntled players on other rosters. So, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma City is going to be tough to beat. The only thing, like I said last week, that might be stopping them is you've got the Celtics team that at full strength, they're young. They've won already. They've got good coaching, great management. It's, did you formulate this team in the wrong time when you got to go against a juggernaut, a team that could maybe put up multiple championships, but even still, they're going to be around for a long time.
Who's the biggest threat in the West to OKC then, as of today?
To me, you want to say Dallas, but in my opinion, I think that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be a legit problem for them. The way they play. Now, it might be a little gimmicky, and maybe in the playoffs it won't work as much. I can't really say that because I don't know. But the way the Memphis Grizzlies play and the way they guard, and they're tough guys, and they've got talented guys if they could stay healthy, that's the problem. Morant's got to stay healthy, which he hasn't been able to do, in most of his career, with him and Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., and they've just got tough guys that can play. They'll give them some problems. Denver, you want to say, but the way Denver plays up and down, I don't know. And then the Mavericks, if Luka could get over that injury in the next few weeks and sort of glide back into playing shape and sort of shake the rust off a little bit, maybe they have a chance. But I don't even love the way the Mavericks are playing. So I would say the Memphis folks. Who would you say that they'll give them the biggest problem?
Yeah, I think a fully healthy Dallas could be the team because they got two legit ISO guys. They got a good bench now. They made some nice trades in the offseason. They're struggling right now. But them, I think Denver, but I think getting Hartenstein has shored them up a little bit. So I'll probably go those two teams. Houston, I just don't know. I feel the same way about Houston that I did last season about OKC. They're playing really well, but I just don't know. I don't know. Are they going to be noisy in the playoffs, or are they still a year or two away? But if I told you that OKC would be 30-5 with Chet Holmgren out for most of the games, you'd call me crazy. So it just shows their depth and how well they've played together. So definitely being excited. I really think they got a chance to make the finals this season as that 1 seed, which isn't a huge call because they are the 1 seed. But my point is that historically, the last couple of seasons, there's been numerous 1 seeds. I just thought, I think they're fraudulent to get to a finals. I think this team has a legitimate chance. I had Detroit Basketball Pro get my vote. They've been playing good basketball, man. They've been playing well. They've won 3 straight. They've won 6 of their last 7, and it wasn't just cupcake teams. They beat some good teams in that run. They go on Phoenix. They beat Phoenix, LA, and SAC all on the road. The SAC game gets the coach fired. That's Mike Brown firing. So thank you, Detroit. They lose a tough one at Denver, fourth in 4 nights on the road, or however many nights, 6 or 7 nights. They then go on to beat Orlando, who's always a tough beat. They beat Charlotte, easy win, and then they beat Minnesota. So 6 of the last 7 I had them in my 10, so I hope they hold on because that was my one bold prediction I made in the preseason. That's probably why I gave them the vote as well. But they're playing well. They're young. They got a nice mix of youth and veterans that can, Tobias Harris has been playing pretty well in spurts. They got some size on them, and they seem like they're well coached and together. I mean, they're 17 and 18. They're not blowing the world away, but a lot of people didn't have them in the 10. A lot of people had them towards the bottom. Still a lot of water to go under the bridge, but they're one game ahead of 10th, 2 games ahead of 11th, and they're beating Detroit historically. The last 5-6 years, to say they would win 4 road games in a row. I don't even care if they were 4 games against Portland. You'd be like, nah, they're not going to do that. Like, they're just notorious for letting 2 slip or 3 slip or games they shouldn't win slip. So their arrow is slowly going up, and it's good to see a proud historic franchise kind of punching and giving themselves a shot to be in the mix.
Yeah, now the biggest problem to them is Ivy breaking his leg.
Yes.
That's the biggest issue they're going to face going forward. He's been having a really good year, averaging 17 a game, and that's a big blow to that team. But they've been playing great. I just think they, with Cade Cunningham coming into his own healthy, just him and Ivy were a great match. Just, they could both play on and off the ball and just sort of spread you out, drive you. They play hard. I like guys like Jalen Duren who could really just like rebound, play hard. Isaiah Stewart, same way. Just, those guys play hard, and you got Tim Hardaway Jr. flying around. They've been playing well, for sure. I didn't really have them. I'm like most didn't have them in their top 10, but they're creeping and they play hard. Bickerstaff Jr. has got them going. He's got them just coaching them up. He's doing a great job with those guys taking over this year, and I really can see them sort of just scrapping. The way the East is sort of shaping up, especially in that like 9 to 12 range, I could definitely see them scrapping up. Brooklyn's not really trying to win. You don't know what's going to go on Philly. Chicago's always up and down. You don't even know what Chicago's going to do, if they're going to trade away Vucevic and things like in the next couple of weeks. That could send them down. Toronto's really not a threat to do anything. So I think you're right, Bogues, that those guys could sneak into the top 10. Problem now is without Ivy, replacing that 17 points a game ain't going to be easy. It just be an interesting watch going forward.
Yeah, and I think what I like about Detroit's chances in that bottom 5, I think Philly theoretically should make it, but Brooklyn not trying to make it, like you said. Toronto not really trying to make it. Bulls are there right now, but they're probably going to blow the farm up eventually this season to try and go full rebuild mode. So you've already got 3 teams there that don't really want to be there. I think Detroit want to be there. Like they're not in tank mode. They're young. They're trying to get better, and they're valuing these wins for their young guys to try and establish something for the next year and the year after, right? So they actually want to be there. Unlike, I think, look, Chicago's battling, but their front office has a big decision to make whether they blow that thing up and just let the young guys ride it out and see what they've got. But obviously, Brooklyn, Toronto, Charlotte, Washington don't want to be there. So, but yeah, they get my nod. Who's your week?
Minnesota, Bogues. I mean, there's a lot of teams you could pick. You could pick Dallas. You could pick, Minnesota. I don't really like to pick the bottom 2 or 3 teams. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. So Minnesota's got to really step it up. I know they had a huge monumental effort, in the last 24 hours by Anthony Edwards scoring 53, but, still trying to find it. They're still a little clumsy and still try to find themselves and try to, just sort of play together and sort of play with purpose. I know they've just been an inconsistent team most of the year. They dropped it to 10th place right now, and not really a lot separating them. And now I know Sacramento's sort of in limbo, but they got to sort of scrap this one together and sort of see what they have. I think that they've been struggling. They really haven't been consistent. Randall has been the square piece in the round hole type of player, just trying to find the way he could really, contribute. Look, he's got 20.7 and 4.5 on the season, but they still got to find a way to, really utilize him and figure this thing out. Anthony Edwards is sort of giving his effort. He's been said in the press this past week saying that, I'm too young to be passing the ball all the time, just because guys have been teams have been flocking to him, throwing two on the ball. He has to really facilitate and be a passer. That's what happens in this league, though. Especially when you're a great player, you got to figure out other ways, especially when they're going to take you off the ball, to really impact the game. Obviously, impact where you pass and impact your game in transition before teams could sort of figure you out, try to get to the rim, try to finish, but also use your passing, your rebounding, playing off the ball a little bit, and figuring things out. I think that in little patches of struggle in this league, you can learn a lot about the league, figuring things out, because there's a lot of great coaches, a lot of great scouting. They're going to take your best things away, especially when they try to figure your team out. And now you got to figure out different ways to impact winning. And that's, what Anthony Edwards has to do. He had a great run in the playoffs last year, trying to, rekindle this thing. And it's so early in the season. They definitely can do it. But yeah, they've been struggling, and they got to find a way to, they got to find a second gear. They got to find a way to start winning games consistently and competing and trying to move up, because, try to go through the 7 through 10 process and go to the play-in and try to get you a conference final and things is going to be a really tough, monumental effort. So they got to find themselves quick.
Yeah, it's just still clunky. Still somewhat early. We're almost at the halfway point, but it just looks like it's just not working. It's the trade that they made and the deal that they thought would help their cap and move on from Towns, and it's just been all over the place. And if your best player is scoring 50 and you're still going down to a bottom Eastern Conference team, you've got some issues. So I think they've got a lot to clean up. They have a generational talent again. Since first one they've had since, well, you could say Towns is, I wouldn't say generational, but since Kevin Garnett,
KG.
Yeah, exactly. You got to try to. The biggest thing now with all this noise is what's going to happen, Pro. It's slowly going to start about he wants out. If this doesn't happen by X amount of time, if that doesn't happen, I want out, and those rumors are going to start. And we know how this all works in the NBA, especially when it comes to small markets. New York media, LA media, the GMs are going to sniff something out. LA might swoop in, try to get him somehow. The Lakers are notorious for that, planting all these seeds, putting pressure on, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's like, I want out. I'm at my tether. We haven't won. The franchise hasn't done me well bringing these players in, and you hope it doesn't come to that. But it's the start of it is here. This is the baby steps we see with all these superstars of how the seeds are planted.
And the biggest problem, Bogues, a couple of things. First of all, Towns is having a ridiculous year this year.
Yeah, which doesn't help.
I mean, the way he fits into New York. I mean, I never would have thought it. I thought he would do well, but the way he can just sort of score, and he's not really dominating the ball. They move it, and just the way he just sort of figures things out. He's been really good. He's got a very high basketball IQ. You don't sometimes may not love the way he plays, but he's been great for them. That's number one. And number two, I always talk about it. How are you going to recreate this roster if you need to? Julius Randle's not going to give you a ton in trade, in value in trade. You saw that. They tried to probably get, New York was trying to probably trade him for 18 months, and they couldn't really get much done except a swap for Towns and Randle, right? And then the other guys like Gobert, Rudy might be able to get you something in trade, but, they're not going to give you a ton of talent back. It's going to be tough. I mean, they sort of are who they are, but, like Naz Reid has a little bit of value. Jaden McDaniels is pretty good, but but you're not going to, your salary cap's wiped. You're not really going to acquire it through free agency. Trade. I mean, they could definitely
a free agent?
Get something
Randle
done
a free
in
agent
trade.
or player option?
Hold on, let me look.
I think he's
Randle.
Either a player team
Hold on.
or it might be. I can't remember what it was.
Hold on, I got it, Bogues, I think. Let me look at it. He's got player option 30.9. So he's got 28.9 now and then 30.9. So that's going to be tough. He could probably opt out of that and sign a long-term deal either with Minnesota at a decent number, or try himself on the market. So it's just a tough thing, Bogues, when look, your roster, like last year they hit it perfectly, right? Then they make this move, but look, you're not going to get much for Conley. McDaniel's got a little bit of value, but not a ton of it. Randall, not a ton. Gorbert's got some value, but I think Gorbert, the way he plays for them, rim protector, rebounder, defensive specialist, offensively is a little bit, he obviously handcuffs you a little bit, but now you got to try to form this team around Edwards. And like you said, it could be an issue where he starts grumbling about, hey, he's already sort of piped off a little bit in the media about different things, teammates not bringing it every night and a little bit of frustration. Although that's probably during the season, but I don't know how they're going to reshape this roster to get a lot done. Because in my opinion, they got some value to it, no doubt. But no, I think in the open market, when teams are going to give you assets back, I don't think you're going to get a ton of talent for the players you have outside of really Edwards, and Gorbert. So it'll be an interesting deal going forward.
Yeah, they can't move Edwards. They're going to do everything they can to try to keep him. So that's their best piece, which will be interesting. I had the Dallas Mavericks. Other candidates, Phoenix were in there again, Atlanta, but the Mavs, by your own rule, I used your own rule. They lost to Portland, so don't care if they had injuries, but they lost 4 straight. Lost to Portland, lost to Sacramento, lost at Houston, and then at home to Cleveland. So they've had some injuries. They've had guys in and out of lineups, but the form that they were in late November, early December, they won I think 8 straight games at that point, or 7 straight games. They've been clunky since then, and now the injuries haven't helped them. Lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 1, win 1, lose 4. Look, I'm not pressing the emergency button on them by any means. I think they're going to be in the mix when healthy, but it is noticeable the contradicting styles. Obviously, when you lose someone like Luka out of your lineup, your style changes a little bit just because his usage is so high. But they're trying to figure themselves out, and I think the danger for this team, with Luka being out for so long, is it's a mini Clippers feel. It's like, are you going to play enough together to get the runs on the board to sustain a playoff push that you're familiar with each other? And I think that's what their strength was last year. I think they had their rotations. They made that trade, a small little trade. They all played together. Everyone was healthy towards the end of the season, and they made a nice little burst. Not seeing that right now, so it'll be interesting to see how they go. Obviously, Luka's injury, get back on the floor, and if they can make that little push and just play together and get on the same page after All-Star break. Like I said, not emergency by any means. They're 20-15. They're tied for 6th with the Clippers. But, the West, they lose 3 straight games. They could fall to 11, potentially. Mm-hmm. That's how tight that bottom part of the West, or really from 2 down, it's 5 games, to the 10th, which is wild. Very, very close. You don't see it this close at this part of the season. You usually see 3 or 4 teams kind of solidifying their spot up the top, and then the rest kind of chasing. But it's wide open, and the Mavs have not had a great week.
Yeah, I don't really tend to push the emergency button either when a player goes out, especially if he's going to be back and within hopefully the next few weeks, 3 to 5, I would think. Now that's a tough one. That I think he had a pretty big calf injury, but they've dealt with him. Now the good thing about them is they've dealt with him missing time before. Last year he did it. He's done it in different modes in the last few years, for one reason or another. But you don't want to be stacking up too many losses. Now, there are a lot of teams like in the West, in the NBA in general, but like especially West, when you're facing like Portland, Utah, even New Orleans shorthanded, that you could probably beat without them. But look, you lost to Portland, like you said, and that's obviously a problem. I did like the way that Dinwiddie played the first couple of games without Luka. He had a couple of pretty good games. Najee Marshall, he's been stepping up. But you're right, you got to find a way to win without your superstar. Now, the good thing about, they did a great job of getting Kyrie here, and now you've got 2 juggernauts. And they play great together. But Kyrie does play well without Luka as well when Luka's out of the lineup. You got to find different ways to win. Their bench, I do like their bench with, you got guys like Najee Marshall, Maxey, Daniel Gafford. but they got to find ways to generate offense without him in the game. And that could be spot up shooters. That could be Klay Thompson stepping up more. PJ Washington has to be more consistent. Lively's more of a lob guy. He's good to pair up with Kyrie, but he's never really been a big time scorer or whatnot. But Quentin Grimes has shown some flashes over the year to try to be, try to elevate his role as a scorer a little bit. But yeah, I do worry about, especially how close the West is, what they're going to do. Look, if you're going to go 500, you're going to win a game here, lose a game here, win a game here, great. But if you're going to lose 4 in a row, 5 in a row, that could be a problem. And you don't know where Luka's going to be when he comes back, especially for an injury like that, and how long it's going to take him to sort of get back to even close to being normal. Again, end of the year, I'm not worried about it, but from this time, early January to mid-February to All-Star break, like, where are you going to be? You got to find a way to will yourself to win some games and to deal with some things. This is where, like I said, like Klay Thompson has to step up. PJ Washington has to step up. Their bench, Spencer Dinwiddie just trying to be, he's been a shell of himself since he went to LA last year. And now he's, putting up together some games. And again, Jaden Hardy, that's going to be a big one too. Trying to, again, how are you going to reproduce those points? That 28 points a game, how are you going to reproduce it? You can't ask Kyrie to go from 24 to 40. It's going to take a group effort of guys stepping up from like 14 a game to 17 a game, taking great shots, defending, playing hard. They do have a veteran group that's been together. Most of those guys have been together for a while. So, hopefully they could scratch together some wins.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Like I said, not panic stations by any means, but they need to get it together. They're at Memphis next too, which doesn't help. But I think Morant a bit proppy as well. So maybe they can steal that one and get back on track. They got Portland. They got the rematch with Portland, I think, after that. So they might. They got at Memphis, Lakers at home, and Portland. Then they got Denver back to back. So they got some tough games, but they've also got some winnable ones. We'll see how they go there. All right, the Jimmy Butler saga, Pro. Let's get into it. Suspended 7 games. You don't often see. I feel like he's just been doing nitty gritty, annoying stuff, poking him, but nothing super crazy, unless there's something behind the scenes we don't know about. But the statement from the Heat, through his actions and statements, he has shown he no longer wants to be part of this team. Jimmy Butler and his representative have indicated they want to be traded elsewhere. Therefore, we will listen to offers and send him home for 7 games. So Jimmy has countered that by saying, I want to see me getting my joy back playing basketball, wherever that may be. We'll find out here pretty soon. I'm happy here off the court, but I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. I want to help this team win, and right now I'm not doing it. Asked if he could get his joy back on the court with the Miami Heat. Probably not. So end of an era there for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. One thing I'll note, Pro, I don't know if you saw, conveniently, I'll pull this up. The NBA put out a statement regarding this. I think it's pointed towards this without being pointed towards this, but from NBA player participation policy, teams must refrain from any long-term shutdown or near shutdown where a star player ceases participating in games or begins to play a materially reduced role in circumstances affecting the integrity of the game. However, the policy also indicates this exception: rare and unusual circumstances. If a rare and unusual circumstance exists for the absence in the judgment of the league office. First, we'll touch on the Jimmy thing, but let's just secondly, but let's just touch on that rule, Pro. That's, I don't know how, if Jimmy comes back after 7 games because he wants to stop getting fined, he's getting fined a shitload of money because it's a game check, right? It's just going up by the millions. And the league said, well, he's come back. Miami's trying to obviously push for potentially making a playoff run or rebuilding. Jimmy, there's no point in us playing you 35 minutes because you're going to be traded soon or you don't want to be here. What's the league going to do? How can you go down on Miami and say you need to play him his normal minutes? That's a pretty interesting line there.
Yeah, it is. And I think that the Players Association may file something to combat the 7-game suspension. Now, that's going to be a lengthy process, so it may not even be worth doing it, but just suspending a guy 7 games for just just being
shooting
just
1 foot, step back from the corner.
Yeah, the integrity of the games too. You got a lot of people on DraftKings who are probably a little pissed at him, but it's a weird situation, Bogues, especially when you got a player who doesn't want to be there. You got a team that is trying to trade the guy. It's not impossible to trade him, but it's going to be very difficult. I don't think teams are going to give you a lot for him. Because what are you're gonna give up a young core, especially the teams that we're talking about him going to. Talking about him going to what? Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, it's a tough, it's a tough deal. Like I told you last week, it's, but
is it though? I mean, teams won't give up a lot, but say you're spitballing here, the Orlando Magic, right? You got a chance to get a legit playoff closer. The risk is it's around a young team, but this needs to be best behavior Jimmy. He's got a player option. He can potentially say to him, "Hey, you come into a young group, you fuck this up. We're just gonna, we're gonna sit you down. Come and play, buy in. If everything goes well, you owed 1 year 50. Maybe we'll turn that into a 2 year 70, 2 year 85, or a 2 year 80, and you finish your career here and you stay in Florida. I think there is circumstances where, like you said, they're not going to give up a lot, but I think there are some teams. There are some teams out there that could definitely use him for an added push. Memphis is probably the other one, right? Like, I know Memphis is playing a different style, but like if you can get a legit playoff closer on a roster that's already very good and young and playing hard. The risk reward is that if he goes the negative Jimmy, the sour Jimmy, that it could cost, but I don't think he does that moving on. I think he knows that this is probably it for him, right? It's kind of the Julius Randle situation that's starting to come a little bit. You got to start to show that you can behave, and I think Jimmy's at that right at the end of that part now, right? It's like you said, teams are just not going to bother if you're going to cause problems, right? And he's 35, 36.
Yeah, he's 35 years old. It's tough. I just think that it's a lot of salary to take on. You're gonna have to pump out a lot of salary in a trade. It's gonna be difficult, but not impossible to acquire a guy. But like okay, for example, Orlando. Do you really want to give up? You got you got to give up a lot of salary. And I don't know if they've got if they've got the salary to especially guys that you want to trade out. Most of those guys that are big salary guys you want to keep. So it's just going to be tough to make deals. And look, it's going to get ugly. And the NBA stepping in. I think the Players Association is going to step in. They'll probably try to mediate this to where it's not 7 games because, look, he's healthy. He hasn't done anything grossly disrespectful, but Miami's obviously pissed about it because they don't like things getting out. It's a deal. And plus, look, you've been I'm sure you were at a place or two at the end of your career that you weren't really exactly happy about. Now, you were professional about it. Most people are going to be professional and sort of keep it inside if you're not really happy with your role or whatnot. You're not happy not winning, especially when you come from winning history. It's tough. And plus, we don't know what's going on. Like, we don't know on Jimmy's end of things. But it's funny because everybody wants to, players to speak truthfully. In the media, it's great. We want to know the scoop. And now the guy's actually expressing how he feels, and everybody's up in arms about it. There's no winners here. You get paid an insanely amount of money in the NBA to deal with sometimes things like this, and you have to deal respectfully about it. And you got to be professional until they can move you. And when you're speaking out of line a little bit in the media about your team and about not being happy and trade stuff, it's tough, man. It's not easy. They're not a great team right now. He's not playing great either. I don't know. Obviously, the solution is to trade him, but now with this whole suspension thing, it's a really ugly black mark on an organization that prides themselves with their culture and everything they do, keeping things internal. But remember, this is a guy that they had to be held back with, Adonis Haslam during a game last year. Remember, Spoelstra went at him. He's this tough old school player. He's one of the last old school type players that actually speaks his mind, is semi honest about things. But now it's some things are getting out a little bit. It's not going to be pretty, especially when you can't do the things you used to consistently, like you can't, and you're not happy, you're not winning. They're probably not happy with you. You're chippy. It's a tough deal. And then what are you gonna do with a team that could actually trade? I think the best team for him is the Phoenix Suns, but you're gonna have to take back, a player with a no trade clause. And I don't know if he's gonna, I don't know if they're gonna be up for that. So, if I don't know, Bradley Beal would accept the trade. So that's the thing too. I think that's the best team because they need a little bit of toughness. They need that like bad boy type guy that's going to be, a little rough around the edges and tough. And, they don't really have that on their roster. They need it. But Bradley Beal's got the no trade clause, so I don't know if they're going to get anything done. So it'll be interesting.
How do you feel about people talking about, I guess from the way Miami's handled it, there's been some scuttlebutt around that it's, they've done Jimmy dirty. They should have kind of, I guess showing him a bit more respect out the door or all that kind of stuff, 2 finals appearances and playoff Jimmy and everything that's happened. Do you think they've handled it the right way? They've gone too hard, too soft, or do you just, it is Miami's MO. No one's surprised that they've gone this route. This is what they do, and this is why I think they've been so successful culturally for 2 decades now, right? But do you think that they maybe could have handled this differently?
I think they were playing defense on this. I think that, look, I think it all stems from them not extending him last summer. So he's chippy about that. He's been away from the team to deal with some certain things in certain situations. And look, has it been the best situation for him? Maybe, maybe not. But I think they handled it pretty well. Look, teams, they both use each other. Teams use players, players use teams. You got a contract, you got to play it out. They could trade you at any time. That's the deal. I don't think they did anything out of line until, look, he pops off in an interview that he could have probably handled better. And then they're like, you know what? That's not how we do things here. And we're going to show the world we're not going to take that. Is it 100% right? Probably not. I mean, should they just send him home and not suspend him and just say, look, we're going to send you home until this trade's done? Probably a better way to handle it. Cost him a lot less money and a lot less, bad press on it. But look, and this is the thing, you get paid a lot of money. Most of your people watch your sport, especially on streaming or on TV. The guy with like 2 jobs, a wife that's nagging him, 3 kids that are making noise in the background, and he's just making ends meet. And now you got a guy who's making $48 million a year, said he's not happy. Now maybe he isn't, and maybe he's got legit gripe, but nobody wants to hear that to that extent. And then you're blowing up your team in an interview with, look, everybody's doing everything they can there to try to win games. They just don't have it. They don't have it. And everybody in this league, not many people like a Dirk Nowitzki gets to go off into the sunset and the team's happy with him, he's happy with them, and everything ends well. Like, most of the things that end in this league, they end very badly. Even if you have a player with great history in your organization, when they get older and they can't do what they can't do what they used to do, and they're not winning and they're not happy and the team's not happy with them, they either trade them or they stretch their contract out, or, it's just an ugly divorce. It gets a little chippy, and that's what it is, folks. I don't think Miami did him dirty at all. Like, I think he could have handled it better. And then they were just playing defense on what he was, how he acted, how he's been acting in games. And it just came to a halt. I think he could have just been like, look, go to them. Look, I want to get out of here. I'm not happy here. Can you just trade me, send me home? We'll say all the right things, and then we'll just get this thing going. I think they just sort of passed the point of no return on this thing.
Yeah, you should have just used the back spasms thing, like former teammate of mine did. But I mean,
Miami, as a player, how do you feel? Like, how do you think that they, as an ex-player, how do you think that they handled it? As far as what they're doing right now to the guy.
I think their MO is known. I don't think they mess around with this stuff. They don't try to sugarcoat it. They don't try to go through agents and handle it delicately. They just peel the Band-Aid off, move on. That's been Miami's MO for a number of decades. I've had teammates that have played there that said the other thing that plays a part is that it is very army like with the way they run things there, and that grinds on players. Someone like Jimmy, who's an all-star and was an MVP candidate many years ago and went to the finals and all that kind of stuff. I think it does grind on you because they treat everyone the same. They don't give that, as we saw with LeBron when he was there. They don't give you special treatment because of who you are, right? And it is very regimented. People talk about the Spurs being regimented. I think Miami's the same, if not harder, as far as their regimented professionalism of the everyday grind. I mean, they practice, from what I hear. They don't mess around. This isn't the walk through day. This isn't soft day. We go hard. We do our work. We get out of here. And some players don't like that as well. So I think it definitely grates on players. But I think they've handled it the way most teams would want to handle it, but most don't have the balls to do. If that makes sense. So. It will be interesting to see where he ends up. I think he can literally help a team at this point in his career, like a young team that has a chance to burst and get him through a playoff series with the way he fires up in those playoffs. But I think he's delusional if he thinks he's getting another 4 or 5 year deal. I just don't think that's sustainable. It's all downhill here for him. Everyone goes through it. You talk about Dirk. Dirk's probably the luckiest thing Dirk had is super close to Cubes and was in a smaller market, so he could be that star that is the face of the franchise, brought him a championship MVP, and they could do it the right way. I think maybe if Dirk's with the Lakers and Knicks, it doesn't end the same way because we know the turnover of those big franchises, right? So I think a lot of it's got to do with timing, and to your point, very rare to happen, like super rare for a star to go out on both the clubs and their own terms happily into the sunset. Dirk was a rare case.
And don't forget, Dirk probably took probably $60 to $80 million less to stay in Dallas multiple times when other teams were, coveting him.
Yeah.
2012, 2013, passed up like $23 million a year or $20 million a year, Houston and LA, to stay in Dallas, where I think he made like
a little bit less
mid-level exception, if I'm not mistaken. To get guys like to get under enough to try to, to get Chandler Parsons and a couple other guys there.
Tim Duncan's probably the
deals.
other one I can think of. Tim Duncan went off kind of on his own terms with the Spurs. There's not many other ones out there.
No.
Finally, news-wise, the Charles Barkley, JJ Redick thing is absolutely hilarious. I don't know if you caught all this, Pro, but JJ Redick made some backhanded comments that weren't really directed to Barkley. That's why this is interesting, but he just basically said Redick made recent comments about how poor the coverage of the NBA is by its partners and has hurt the game, basically saying commentary and the scuttlebutt and analysts, they are a lot to blame for why the people are tuning out of the game. It's not necessarily the style of play or 100 threes a game, it's the commentary. There are some commentators that aren't great, but I that's been the case for 40 years. There's always a commentator that I would like that you might not, and vice versa. Charles Barkley took offense to that heavily in the middle of a Minnesota versus Boston highlight rap they were doing. He somehow started discussing JJ Redick. Quote, y'all heard JJ Redick said something about me. JJ, you better calm down because when you come for the king, you better not miss. He said something like, we're the reason why people ain't watching this crappy product we got. Yeah, us. Like, we're out there jacking up 100 threes a night. JJ, you come for the king, you better not miss. Remember, I got your Lakers games. You can't hide them flaws they got. You just a dead man walking. They got rid of Frank Vogel, who did a good job. They got rid of Darvin Ham, who did a good job. You came out there thinking you were going to change things with the same ugly girl you went on a date with. The Lakers stink. And then further on said you can't put makeup and lipstick on that pig. Make it look better. He went hard. Look, I think JJ, he was that guy like 2 years ago. He was the guy like criticizing the game and criticizing things. And it's funny how things change when you're in that coach's seat and he's trying to back his players. He's trying to say, our players still play a great style. Everything's great. He's trying to deflect it. And Barkley took exception to it, but a pretty interesting random fight you wouldn't have had on your bingo card coming into this season, Pro.
Yeah, Bogues. I mean, it gets a little ugly, and I think that older players, especially from other generations, are always going to kill the current generation, and say that the game was much better when we played. And look, you definitely have some data that definitely to okay that, to go on that side of that argument. Then you've got the young players that think that 10 years ago or 15 years ago and later, and even before, the game was prehistoric. The game's way better now. Players are much more skilled. You've got no nonstop arguing going back and forth. Look, the NBA definitely has a problem. No one knows what the total problem is. There's a million types of little problems, and everyone has got their take on it. JJ did go after those guys a little bit. I am almost positive, and Trent could check it. I think he went after TNT a little bit and said, those guys, TNT guys always kill. Now, maybe he didn't. I could be wrong on that, but I'm almost positive within the last month or so was asked about it. And look, and this is the problem too with all media, like they're going to ask you all these questions. All the head coaches are right there, or coaches, players, and they're going to ask the same question over and over, and you're going to answer it, and it's going to,
the one line, the one day you let your guard down, that's the one they're going to use, even though you've answered it 50 times. Yeah.
And that's what he did. And look, he did go at Barkley. Not Barkley by name, but I think he said the TNT guys. I could be wrong on that. And then Barkley, look, you're going to go after that. Some guy probably told him, or he read about it, on social media and whatnot. Now he's going to go back at him. And that's the thing. And that's the thing about our society today. You can't say anything, and it's not going to be, back in the day, you might say something in front of a reporter. They'll probably say, you know what, I'm not going to write that because it's probably going to get out and it's going to be a negative deal. Everybody loves that drama. We opened up the show with talking about that, and that's what happens. And look, he talked out of line a little bit. Barkley hits back, and I think he answered again. I think JJ Redick is like, I'm already over it or whatever. It's irrelevant to me. And that's just, it just is what it is. It's a statement that he probably should have thought about and downplayed, but he didn't. And Barkley's definitely not going to, that guy talks shit to everybody. So, he's going to go back at him, and it's just going to be this back and forth thing. Look, I think JJ's done a good job. I had them at like 10. He's got them at the 5th spot right now. I think they just lost to Houston tonight, or losing. So he's been playing okay. They're not great. He's done a good job. You could tell he's very Rick Carlisle-ish. He's prepared. He crushes film. He works his ass off. Those guys run great stuff, but you're sort of handcuffed to, LeBron and AD, an older team trying to make some moves on your roster, and it's a tough deal. But look, this is what's going to happen. People get bored at just these games. They want other stuff, and that's what the media is going to give them. They're going to give them, this guy said this thing. How do you react to it? And you're going to react, and they're going to react. It is what it is. And Barkley's obviously going to be colorful with what he says back, and he's going to go at you hard, which he did. I mean, it's what would you rather fucking watch, Bogues? Would you rather watch those guys going back and forth, or another team combining for 102 missed fucking threes?
That's my point. I think the TNT show makes the NBA somewhat watchable during the regular season.
No doubt.
People tune in for the banter between him and Shaq. I think it's a great show. They mix in banter with jokes, with actual basketball, and I think people tune in because they know Chuck doesn't give a shit and he's going to give you his opinion. So I know I like tuning in. I don't always agree with what he says, but I laugh. He's got a great sense of humor. Like the churros San Antonio thing with the women, like just all that stuff. It's great. People might find it offensive, but he's face value guy, and I really enjoy watching that show because of that banter. And I think it's just funny that these two are going at it randomly. Biggest media market in the NBA versus Charles Barkley. So anyway, just finally, Kawhi Leonard has returned, Pro. He returned last game. I think he had 11. He had 12 points, 4 for 11, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and they got the big win. So against Atlanta, 131-105. So good to see him back on the court. Looks a little bit slimmer, moving a little bit differently. Hopefully everything holds up with his joints and ligaments and everything, and we can see a nice little push there, Pro. Okay, useful or useless, Pro. 52 of the 84 shots taken in the first half in the primetime T-Wolves versus Celtics game were what, Pro?
52 of the first 84?
Yeah, 52 of the first 84 shots in the first half were threes.
I'm going to go, I'm gonna go with threes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is threes. But yeah, that's the one in the primetime game. That's what people were watching and losing their minds about. Useful, useless.
I think it's useless to the point where they're taking all these fucking threes. It gets to be a bit of repetitive. But as far as like it's useless. It's useful in the fact that that's where the game's going, man. I mean, that's just sort of how it's going. It's not going away, and there aren't going to be many teams that sort of go with another philosophy. So I say it's useful, just because of that. I think it's useless on the amount of threes that are just being jacked up and the type of threes that are being jacked up, but I say useful. What do you say?
Yeah, I just say useful as far as how glaring it is. I mean, you're on pace to shoot 104 threes combined for both teams. It's just wild. It's wild the way it's gone. I don't know what the fix is. We've discussed this at length, and it's just pretty wild. All right, next one. Touching on that, the Sydney Kings play the Brisbane Bullets. We'll give you an NBL one, Pro. They played the Brisbane Bullets a couple of nights ago. I was at that game.
Mm-hmm.
The Sydney Kings took 11 threes total in the whole game and won in 2025, Pro. There's hope. There's still some hope. Useful or useless. They were 5 for 11 from 3, Pro, and they still won.
Useless, but it's useful because they don't want to get on Barkley's bad side, so they're just going to downplay the 3 the rest of the season.
Got the win, bro. Got the win. Don't know how.
They got the win.
I don't know how. I'll talk about it later, but 11. You do not see that anymore. 11 total threes attempted at a good clip. 5 for 11, not bad, just under 50%. So, I couldn't believe it when I saw that stat. All right, last one. Cole Anthony is leading the league in plus minus in the fourth quarter, Pro. Useful, useless?
Useless, but, based on the fact that he's playing, because half the roster's on the injured list, but I would say useless, but great stat, though. Plus minus. I'm not a huge plus minus guy, but yeah. I would say useless just because he's only playing because of that, but that's my take. What do you say, Bogues?
Yeah, you have to look at the games and see if there's not this could be a situation where sometimes he's in games where they're down 10 or 15 and they get it back to 5. It doesn't necessarily mean it's leading to wins. That's where plus minus can be deceiving. So I'll say useless from that fact. But nonetheless, Orlando's playing pretty decent basketball considering the ambulance ward they've got down there in Orlando at the moment. Aussie of the week, our fourth award goes to Josh Giddey, 11.3 points, 9.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and 1 steal per game for the week. So pretty decent numbers, almost a double-double with 5 assists. He gets his fourth. Dyson, he had 11 points, 3.6 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 3.6 steals per game. So pretty good lines for him as well, but I think Giddey gets it with almost a double-double, and Simmons has 1 for the season. So one for Simmons, 2 for Dyson, 4 now for Giddey. Looks like he might be the front runner, but Dyson could sneak in with a couple more steal games, Pro. Fact or fake news? I'm going to give you one first, Pro. I've got one for you.
Sure.
The Clippers will be top 6 in the West if Kawhi plays 30-plus games this season. Fact or fake news? They're currently 7th, but they're tied for 6th at the moment, Pro, with the Dallas Mavericks, 20-15. So 20-15, 35 games in. So they've got, 47 games left. If Kawhi plays 30-plus, they will make the 6.
I say fact. What do you say, Bogues?
Yeah, I'm going to go fact. I think so. I think I'm going to go fact. I think they've been playing well even without him, and I think he'll just be a little bit of the icing on the cake. I don't think he needs to play 40 for them to win. That's the beautiful thing right now. I think he can. They can slowly manage his minutes, play him in the 20s. Don't overload him at this point in the season, and they'll still win those games. Harden's playing really well. They look like a really well balanced team, well coached, playing well together. So I'm going to say fact on that one as well, Pro. What do you got?
Bogues, I've got a sort of useful, useless, and a fact or fake news all in one question. Fact or fake news? You could win Rookie of the Month every month during the season and still lose the Rookie of the Year chase. Fact or fake news?
That's happened though, hasn't it? Has that happened?
Has it?
No, I think.
I'm
pretty sure. Hold on.
I don't need Trent signaling you because he's looking that shit up.
I'm pretty sure there was a year that someone won more Rookie of the Month but lost Rookie of the Year. I don't think it was every month.
There's a guy. Fact or fake news, Bobs?
I'm gonna say I don't think it was every month. Wait, is it Conference Rookie of the Month or Rookie of the Month of the league?
Ah, there you go. So Carmelo Anthony won it every year, every month in his rookie year. So did LeBron though. And LeBron ended up winning it.
Yeah.
They always split that up. Probably like in 99, 2000, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. It used to just be one award, but I saw that on Twitter. I mean, on Instagram like yesterday, and I looked that up.
How do they not co-rookie that one though? They did that with Grant Hill and Jason Kidd. Surely you co-rookie that one.
They should have. Bogues, I'll give you an out of sport little deal here that freaks me out a little bit. So there's a baseball player. I'm not a big baseball.
Is it a salad?
What?
Is it a salad?
Nah, come on, Bogues. Stop fucking running. I saw that post that you did that got about 1,400 likes about the fucking food in Phoenix. I don't appreciate that, but I'm always good for a good joke. So there's a guy named Cecil Fielder that played in the 80s that had a son that played as well. So he played for Cecil Fielder played for like Detroit and Toronto and a couple other places. And his son Prince played, recently just retired, I believe. So they both played, right? Both had the same amount of career home runs, 319. They both had 97 home runs with 2 outs. They both had 49 home runs in the 4th inning career. They both had 29 home runs in the 5th inning, and they both had 4 career home runs with runners on 2nd and 3rd. Bogues, son and father, and they had all those same career stats. That is the craziest thing I've heard in a while. Don't ask me why. I just saw that. That was right after the Carmelo Anthony thing, so I thought I'd share it.
Where'd you see that?
It was on social media, and I looked it up. So I didn't get NBA Central. I didn't get NBA Central, so it's legit. I looked on baseball. What's up?
Front Office Sports with 4 Fs.
Front Office Sports. God damn it! I've been duped so many fucking times on that stuff. I don't even like to report the news anymore because most of it's fake. But no, that's legit. I looked on Baseball Reference and I looked it up on Google. That's pretty cool stats, though.
Do you think he retired?
Father and son.
Do you think he retired? Do you think he knew, once he got to all the exacts, he was like, "I'm done"?
He should have. Both of them probably had my DNA gene pool in them because they both were like 500 pounds. They were both unbelievable home run hitters in their days.
I just didn't run.
Good for them. Yeah. They waddled. That's a great sport, baseball, man. You could be as out of shape as you want, and you could play. You could smoke 8 packs a day. No one cares.
All right, Pro. Another good week. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week, and hopefully there's more NBA drama we can talk about.
Let's do it.